as we begin right now, talking about relationship, the most important thing in child development. Relationship, the most important thing in child development. I begin with this quote, and you are free to debate it, you are free to argue, or to disagree. But the quote is, at the root of every development crisis is relationship problem. At the root of every development crisis, whether the development is physical, emotional, social, cognitive, moral development, at the root of every development crisis, where there is crisis physically, when there is crisis socially in their development, when there is crisis emotionally in their development, or when there's crisis cognitively in their development, at the root of it is that there is a problem with relationship, whether a relationship with the parent, relationship with the teachers, or relationship with the primary caregiver. Please, I'm going somewhere and I want you to follow me on this journey. There is this story of this particular valley that is known as the Dead Valley. In this particular valley, crops does not grow, plants do not grow, plants do not grow on this particular valley for many years, and people were wondering what is going on. Why is it that this valley, despite how the soil look and every other thing, that plants are not growing in this valley and crops are not growing? And after a while, when people have thought and wondered why things are not growing on the valley, there was a particular day rain fell. And after the rain fell, after a while, they started seeing plants growing in the valley, seeing crops springing out of the valley. And they wonder that the reason why after all these years that nothing has grown in that valley is the fact that rain or water has not touched the ground. And at the moment water and rain fell on that ground, they started seeing the potential embedded in the valley, it started coming up. What I'm trying to say is that when the condition is right, things begin to flourish. When the condition is right, things begin to thrive. And that also comes to play when we talk about relationship. When there is relationship, the child begin to thrive. When there is relationship, the child begin to flourish. And that is the condition that is needed when you talk about child development. No matter how powerful a seed is, the environment is needed for the potential of the seed to come out. That is the principle. A seed does not grow just by its own self. The seed does not grow on its own. The seed needs an environment for the potential to come out. And that environment is also important for the seed to develop, which means the seed needs the environment needs the seed. This is the reality. So also, no matter how powerful your child is in terms of their potential, their capacity, and their skill, they need an environment for them to thrive. They need an environment for them to flourish. That environment is relationship. Once you plant the child in the midst of a secured relationship, the potential of the child begin to flourish. Now, I'm just trying to introduce this concept before I begin to engage you gradually on why it is important to build relationship and how you need to build it in every stage of their development. Very important. And I want us to pay attention to this. Now, a fish needs a natural environment for it to thrive and flourish. Remember, the moment you take a fish out of its natural habitat, the fish begin to struggle. When you put the fish on land, it's a matter of time, the fish will not survive that experience after a while. But once the fish is inside the water, the fish is exhibiting or is existing within its element. The fish is within its natural habitat, and you see the fish start to flourish. The fish start to the fish does not need to struggle. Why? Because the fish is within its natural habitat. That is what it means. For the fish, the water is all it needs. For the child, relationship is what the child needs. You want brain development, build relationship. You want physical development, build relationship. You want emotional development, build relationship. And you see, the world today is talking about emotional intelligence, emotional intelligence. One of the major gaps a lot of them have not filled is the fact that emotional intelligence does not just develop in adulthood. The foundation needs to be set in childhood. And as the child begins to grow, you understand that the child has some level of emotional intelligence that he or she has cultivated. So you want the child to develop socially, you need to build what? Relationship. So relationship is critical. Relationship is critical for the development of the child. Relationship is critical for the development of the child. Without that relationship, it will be difficult. It will be difficult for the child to be able to develop to the point in which we want the child to develop. So that is the background I want to set for us to be able to have an understanding on why this is important and critical for everyone's for a child to develop properly when it comes to child development. Now, what do you understand on in your own perspective, or from your own perspective, what do you understand when we talk about building relationship with children? What comes to your mind? What are the things that you think you can do? Why do you think it's important? Or let's start with, why do you think it's important to build relationship with children? Why is this an important aspect for child development? Please feel free, if you want to unmute yourself and talk, please do that. If you want to put your comment on the chat board, go ahead and put your comment. I'll just be reading out your comment on the chat box. Okay, someone might. Okay, I think I've muted everyone now. Is it okay now? Building relationship also means building trust with your children. Thank you very much, Evelyn. Building relationship also means building trust with your children. Any other? Okay, it's important to have relationship with children so that they can express themselves to us as parents. Thank you very much for that contribution. Anyone else? You cannot correct in the chat that you don't have, that you are not to connect. Sorry, I can't get that. Okay, they are now willing to connect. Thank you very much for that. Yes, like somebody want to talk, please go ahead. Yeah, you need to build trust. Yeah, go ahead, please.
It's important to build a relationship with children for understanding, to understand them better.
Thank you.
And to
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, to understand them better, and to understanding them better makes you I think that you understand them better.
Thank you very much, Grace, for that contribution. Thank you. Building a relationship means being approachable. So being approachable. Thank you for that. Building a relationship means being approachable, so they are not scared of being open to you. Thank you, Martha. Building relationship helps you to bond with them well. Thank you, Ma, for that contribution. Building relationship to create safe space. With no safe space, there won't be trust. Thank you very much. So when you build relationship, it helps you to create safe space. So you see how relationship is key and critical, for the development of children. And one of the good things about this is the fact that that's why we are talking about relationship being the most important factor in child development, is the fact that once there is relationship, it touches different areas of their life. it helps. And these are the areas we're going to be looking at. The first thing is that why is it important for us to do that, for us to build this relationship with our children? Why is relationship important? Is it something we can do without? Do we really need it? Before I even talk about why it's important, there are some fundamental facts I want us to be able to know and establish. Is the fact that relationship is the foundation for effective parenting. There is no house that will stand the test of time if there is no relationship or if there's no foundation. There is no house. It's just a matter of time. There is no house that can stand the test of time if there is no foundation. So the same thing when we talk about human development, when we talk about individual growing up from childhood to adulthood and to old age, the foundation, in that development pattern or development process has to do with relationship. And that is why relationship is critical. Once the foundation is right, you cannot begin to put every other thing on the foundation. So relationship is critical, is the foundation for effective parenting. Another fact I want you to understand, which quite a lot of people are ignorant about, and this has been a major gap when it comes to child development, is the fact that relationship begins the day the child is born and not when the child is a teenager. I repeat, relationship begins the day the child is born. The day the child comes out from the womb of the mother, relationship begins. Now, this is an area a lot of us have a gap because our understanding of building relationship has to do with words, that the child needs to get to the point where they are started communicating. The child needs to get to the point where they can now understand whatever you say before you start build relationship. That's why you see some people wait until the child get to the teenage years where they can now reason at their level. They now start to build relationship, but at that point in time, it's already too late because you will now require extra effort and time to be able to establish that relationship. But trust me, in communication, there is what we call verbal communication and non-verbal communication. So the moment the child is born, the child might not be able to develop the capacity to communicate with you in plain terms, but the child can absorb things from the environment. The child can begin to perceive things from the environment because the world looks new to the child. The child is asking a fundamental question, and that question is, can I trust the people around me? Can I trust the people that are taking care of me? So your response to the child at that point in time determine if the child is going to build relationship with you. If your responses are not positive, it might or is going to be difficult because children absorb things, and whatever they absorb go into their memory. They are born with memories, and those things in their memory for a while, if they are not helped, it can move into their subconsciousness. That is why some adults grow up with memories of their childhood experience, and that memories, whether it's pleasant and unpleasant, it begins to affect how they react to things, how they behave, and how they develop or look at things or look at issues from different perspectives. So it's critical for us to understand that relationship begins the day the child is born. And I'm going to show you that so that you have an understanding on ways you build relationships. It's not just only through words. It's not only when the child can now start talking, you can build relationship. In fact, there are so many things that you can do to build relationship that does not even involve talking, that does not involve words. So it's critical for us to understand this aspect. Real relationship does not depend on words. Real relationship does not depend on words. It depends on your capacity to be available. It depends on your capacity to be sensitive. It depends on your capacity to be with. There's what we call attunement. Attunement helps to build relationship. And attunement simply means that you are attuned, or you are, when you are trying to set your radio. If you put it in the right station and it's connected to the right signal, you will hear clearly. That's what it means. Your capacity to be attuned to the need of a child, your capacity to be attuned to what the child is going through, the concern of the child. That is what we refer to as attunement, and that is important when it comes to building relationship with children. So look, where you are raising up your hand, you want to say something? Hello? Okay, let me assume it was a mistake. I saw you raise up your hand. So we said real relationship does not depend on words. It depends on your capacity to be available, your capacity to be sensitive, whether physically, virtually, or any form, just be available. Let them know you are sensitive to their need. And the essence is this: when there is relationship, you create memories. When there is relationship, you create memories. And the memories you create, what it does to you is the fact that it is what stay in the mind of the child for a long period of time, even in your old age. And once there is memory, you can communicate. And when you are able to communicate, what it does is that the child wants to spend more time around you. You know, one thing I always tell people to experiment is this: have you realized that unconsciously, when you go to visit your parents, unconsciously, you are not invited, but you just decide to go and visit your parent? Have you realized that the person you ask for first, the moment you enter the house, is the person you are mostly close to? Oh, you might just get to the house. Oh, where is mommy? Or is mommy at home? There is a possibility that the person you ask first, the moment you get to that house, is the person you're close to. I give you another experiment or another example. Have you realized that when you are on call with your parent, the person that you speak with on the phone for a long period of time is mostly the person you are close to? The person you are not close to, after 1 minute, you don't know what to say again. Why? Because over the years, memories have been created. The more memories that are created, the more you're able to communicate with the person. And the more you communicate with the person, the more the bond and the closeness, the connection continue, and it begin to impact on the development of the child. So it's very important for us to understand how this is critical for child development. Okay, Joyce says also parental influences. While baby is in the womb, their brain is being shaped in a certain way. If mom is under stress, baby, the features will be affected. I agree with you. Stress impact on unborn babies. And stress impact on the fetus of the child. So that is important. This has been proven by science, but that's not really what we are trying to focus on now. So, but it's important for us to understand how relationship is critical for children to develop properly. I want to talk on this, especially most of us that live within the African climate or within the Nigerian environment. Our mindset and mentality when it comes to children sometimes is not even based on any scientific evidence. I want to briefly touch on relationship versus authority. These are two different things. Now, most time we raise children or we work with children as if we are working with criminals. You know, when you go to the police or to the military space, the way they deal with their subordinate is based on master-slave relationship. It's based on power, control, and authority. So whenever they want the subordinate to act, they will enforce or use force or use control, or they will use authority to tell the subordinate to do whatever they want them to do. If a criminal is caught, the only thing they use for a criminal is punishment or sanction. And that is the mentality we brought in when it also comes to us working with children. When it comes to child development, we raise them as if we are raising criminals. We are not building relationship, but the way we give instruction is not relationship based. Our instruction is authority based. Our instruction is command and control based. And that is why they also, in a way, their mindset is being programmed that, oh, all I need to do, is for, I know what they will do whenever I behave in a certain way, because I know they will yell, they will use command and control. Even when you are given consequences, your consequences is not relationship based. It's based on command and control. That is why the child finds it difficult to be critical in their thinking. That is why the child finds it difficult to solve critical problems, because everything they know all their life is all about command and control. Everything they know all about in all their life is all about authority. So when you said they should not do certain things, they don't know the why they are not doing what you say they should not do. Yours is just for them to obey. and you say obey without complaint. And that has been the pattern of their development. So when somebody wants to abuse them, they tend to conform because they are used to obey without complaint. So they can't ask critical questions. Their level of cognitive development is not improving because the more question you ask, the more answer you will get. And when you get the right answer, it improves your cognitive ability. It improves your capacity to be able to reason in a certain way. And this is very critical for us when it comes to child development. That relationship is key. Relationship is key. It's something that what we call sine qua non, what we cannot do without, is set the foundation for anything we want to see. And that is why relationship is important. And why is it important? The power of relationship. How powerful is relationship when it comes to child development? Is this something that is so powerful that we need to pay attention to, or is something that we can do without? But I'm here to tell you that relationship is key, is critical. The power of relationship. What does it do? How important it is when it comes to child development? The first thing is it. When you build relationship with a child, when you build relationship with your children, the first thing it does, it helps them to develop social and emotional skills. It helps their social and emotional development. What do we mean by that? One of the things it does when it comes to social and emotional development, it helps to build trust and security. You must understand that children need secure base for them to thrive. When your child is afraid, when your child is going through emotional pain, when your child is being scared by external forces, where is the secure base that they run to? Are you a secure base to that child? It does not happen just by chance. It happens when there is a relationship. Because the more they build that relationship, the more secure they become, and the more they start trusting you. So when they are faced with an aggressor, when they are faced with external or internal aggressor, they have a secure base that they will run to. That is what we also refer to as secure attachment. So they are secure being with you. So strong relationship will promote a sense of trust in your children. It will promote a sense of security in them, and attachment will be developed. And this set the foundation for healthy emotional development. It also helps in self-regulation. When we talk about self-regulation, we are simply talking about their capacity to be able to regulate their emotions, their capacity to be able to control their self. With positive relationship, it provides a supportive environment where children learn to regulate their emotion. Because as a child begins to grow, especially when they start getting to the toddler stage, they begin to throw tantrum. And if you don't build relationship with them and don't help them to manage the tantrum, that is why they grow into adulthood. And you see some adults today throwing tantrum, and you say they don't have emotional intelligence. Yes, the reason they don't have emotional intelligence is because their emotions were not helped while they were throwing all of this tantrum, while they were expressing their emotion. You know, one of the reasons children throw tantrum is because they've not developed the language to be able to communicate their emotion properly. They are still learning. It's more like in a seed form. But once the right environment is there through relationship, they learn better on how to manage their emotion and how to regulate their emotions. But once there is no relationship, it becomes a problem in regulating their emotions. Another important thing we must understand when it comes to building relationship on how it impacts social and emotional development is the fact that it helps to build empathy and compassion. So when there is relationship with your children, the child begins to learn how to build empathy or how to cultivate empathy. So by experiencing empathy and compassion from caregivers, because once there is relationship, they see you and the behavior you model. Once you begin to model empathy, you begin to model compassion through the relationship you have developed with them, it's easy for them to also begin to express it. So children learn to understand and relate to the emotions of others because you are already showing them emotions. Most caregivers hardly show emotion. I can understand because even you did not receive emotion. So it's difficult to give what you don't have, because you're growing up, it was difficult for even your parents to argue. It was difficult for them to say, I love you. It was difficult for them to be available. So it's also hard for you to express it to your own children. It's hard for you to transfer it downward. So I can understand the difficulties in all of these. But it's critical that somebody has to change the cycle. It's critical that you take this important, because once you build relationship, one of the things you will do in the relationship is the fact that you show some level of empathy. And because they see you do it, they see how you express compassion and emotion and empathy, it is easier for them to also express it to other people, even to their peers and the people that they walk around with. So this is very critical. The first one is social and emotional development, which means that once you are able to build relationship with them, it impacts on their social and emotional development. So it means you are raising children who is well developed socially and emotionally. I'm not saying 100% developed now, but at least to some extent, they are well developed socially and emotionally. And that is one aspect we must pay attention to. The second aspect, when we begin to build relationship, it impacts on cognitive development, which has to do with mental development. Language is connected to cognitive development. Language is connected to your thought. So what it does, when there is relationship, you are able to build language and communication. Building relationship will involve rich communication, which means you are available, you are expressing verbal and non-verbal signs, you are communicating with them. And the more you communicate with them, the more they improve their communication, the more they improve their vocabulary. This is very critical. I've seen some people will tell you, oh, children have delayed speech and all of that. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's based on lack of communication growing up. Nobody was available to communicate with them. So they don't even understand what it is for children for people to be able to communicate. So once you communicate with them, even when they have not started communicating, what you are doing is that you are building in the readiness for them to learn how to communicate. So this is very critical. Another thing it does is that it improves their curiosity and exploration. Once there is relationship, remember, children get to a stage where they are curious about everything. They will ask whatever question that they want to ask. Mommy, why are you short? Daddy, why are you tall? Irrelevant and relevant question they are going to ask. Now, what it does for you is the fact that once you are building relationship, their level of curiosity and exploration is improved. So, which means that the more questions they ask, the more curious and they are, and the more they explore, the more you provide answer to them. What it does, it improves their cognitive ability. So this impact on their cognitive development is critical. Sometimes you say, oh, these children know a lot. They are so sound and smart, because someone is available, constantly giving them information that will help to improve their thinking. This is what it does. Another thing it will help is problem solving and critical skill. Problem solving and critical skill. So positive relationship, what it does is that it fosters an environment where children feel comfortable seeking guidance. They are coming to you, talking to you, they are comfortable being around you, asking questions. And because of that, they learn how to solve problems. They see you how you solve critical problems because you were available. But imagine when you are not available. Imagine when there is no relationship. They don't see how you solve problems. They don't see how you think or how you express issues or how you communicate your thought. They are not even available to see you. There is nothing they are going to learn that will help them to improve their critical skill, that will help them to improve their problem-solving skill. So this is critical. Another aspect when it comes to building relationships, why it's so powerful is the fact that it also impacts on physical development. Now, I don't have time. Everything that I'm talking about is something I can spend hours to dissect and help us understand the critical aspect in all of this. Is it about the physical development? Is it about the cognitive, the social development? All of this is something we go deep and share deep thought on how each of these things are important. Let's look at the physical development aspect. It helps in sensory stimulation. When children or when there is relationship, what happens is that it provides children the opportunity for sensory stimulation, such as touch. They're able to touch because you are available for them to touch. So they touch you, and the more they touch you, the more they feel you. They move around the environment. They sense the things that are within the environment. So it's critical for their development. Also, it helps them to develop motor skills. So their fine motor, their and gross motor, they use their arm, they use their muscle, move around the environment, play with you, play different activities with you, engage in different games with you, and this build a relationship in terms of their physical development. Their fine motor skills are developing, their gross motor muscles are developing, their physique, every part of their body is developing, and they are also improving in their habit. So they develop certain habits that nutrition, because there's relationship. So you can talk to them about nutrition, hygiene. You can also talk to them about sleep and exercise and all of these things, which help in their physical development. So this aspect is so critical, is so important when it comes to how children are impacted and how it also helps in other areas of their life. What about the morals and ethical development? Once there is relationship, there will be value orientation. And once there is value orientation, you can be able to give instruction. The more the child interacts with you, the more the child begins to learn about respect. The child begins to learn about certain values that you want them to cultivate. Values like honesty, excellence, whatever it is, hard work. They see this because they are close. There's relationship. So most time, it's not just about sitting them to teach. You must build that relationship, because they also watch you, what you do within the environment. They watch you how you relate with other people. So even the things you are teaching, they're also watching how you are expressing those things. So once they see and there is relationship, you are allowing them to see how you are engaging with real life situation. Is building some level of connection, helping them to cultivate certain value, even without you expressing it fully to them. They see it, they cultivate it, they model it, because that is what they have seen, or that's what they've seen in you. So it's critical for us to understand this part. What about the academic achievement? Of course, once children have relationship with their parents, it helps them to be able to get engaged with their academic work. They are motivated to go to school. They are motivated to learn, because there is that relationship. They feel connected. They feel being supported even without in their academic. It engages their enthusiasm for learning. That learning readiness is being cultivated. They also begin to improve their cognitive skills, because they want to enjoy. They will even enjoy reading because you read with them. They will enjoy, doing their work because you are available for them to do their own work. You smile while they are doing, you laugh while they are doing, you play while they are doing it. And this is building, or this build their motivation to learn, their motivation to be available for their the motivation to be ready for their study, and also build on their cognitive skill. The last but not the least, when it comes to how powerful relationship is and what it does in child development, is it helps in their identity and self-concept. Their identity, how your child evaluates himself or herself, is based on the relationship you build. How your child see themselves, how your children see themselves is based on the relationship you build with them. The evaluation of themselves is a function of the relationship. As they engage with you constantly, there are so many things you've said and you have done. It has impacted on their self-concept. It has impacted on their self-esteem. Imagine a child growing up with a parent or with a caregiver that constantly talk good about them, that constantly motivate them, that constantly say pleasant things about them. Imagine the way the child is going to evaluate himself or herself. Imagine how that will impact on the concept or the self of the child, the self-image of that child. So it's very important for us to understand, the more relationship we build, the more they begin to see themselves in a positive light. Positive relationship contribute to the development of a child's self-esteem and self-worth. it fosters their self-concept. If a child perceives himself to be useless or perceive herself to be useless, let's link it to the people who have built relationship with them, or let's link it to the people who are not available in their life and they felt rejected, they felt neglected, and it has impacted on their self-esteem. Also, cultural identity. Through relationship, children begin to learn about their cultural background, and it develops a sense of identity and belonging. It helps them to be able to belong to a certain tribe, to a certain culture. They begin to have an understanding. But now we have people who are dealing with identity crisis, who don't even know who they are. They are confused about life because nobody was available to build a relationship with them. So you see how critical relationship is in child development. This is not, like I said earlier, there is no time to dissect everything, but just showing you this and looking at the framework, you will realize that this touches on every aspect that is important in the child life. So we need to go back to the basic. We need to go back to the beginning and begin to develop critical aspects, because once this is sorted out, we have solved major problem when it comes to child development. That's why I said earlier on that at the root of every crisis in child development is relationship problem. Once we are able to solve the relationship problem, we have solved a major problem in child development. And this is why I want us to pay attention to this, because now I'm going to be taking you on how you develop that template, what you can do, because it's critical for you to understand what you can do. And what I'm sharing to you is practical and empirical based. I'm not just sharing to you something that just applied to me as a person. I'm sharing what has been applied in different contexts, in different countries, in different society, and how critical they are. This is based on empirical evidence. It is based on fundamental principles that will help, that apply to every child. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? But the methodology, like I mentioned earlier, can be different. But when it comes to the principle, the fundamental truth, we must understand this fact that every child is unique and every child is different. How do you develop relationship, or how have you been developing relationship? Before I share with you the template that I have for you, how do you think relationship can be developed with children, or how do you think how have you been developing relationship? You want to share your experience with us, feel free. I give some few minutes for you to be able to do that before I move, or I dive straight into what I have for us in terms of relationship development. Does anyone want to contribute? If you don't want to talk, you are feel free to just type your comment on the chat box. I'm going to read it out. But if you want to talk, just unmute yourself. Please go ahead. Feel free.
Yes, sir. Can I come in, sir?
Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Well done for the wonderful experience sharing and knowledge sharing. Beautiful. I love it. For me, I've been trying to spend more time. I'm not the outing type. But what I do is I spend more quality time. I stay with him with the touches, with the play, with the gist, with understanding his languages, and with strolling, but not the outing type on events and the rest. So I don't know if that's okay, sir.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. But if you can do outing, it's also good. But trust me, I think the most important thing is that do what works for you. And as long as what you are doing is helping in building relationship, is fine. The only challenge there is the fact that because you are not the outing type, you also don't want to conform your children to be like that so that they don't develop your own personality. So maybe your wife, if she's the outing type.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, for me, well, I don't have children, but whenever I come across children, maybe from other relatives, I play with them a lot, because that way you create a safe ground for them. They love playing, and when you play with them a lot, they tend to love you more, and it builds I don't know really say, but they tend to love you more. They feel safe around you. So that's for me. I play with them a lot and I enjoy doing it too.
Good, Grace. That was a wonderful one. Play is a very critical aspect when it comes to building relationships. So it's critical. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else, if you feel free to drop your comment if you don't want to talk.
Yes, can I just briefly add?
Please jump in.
Okay, one way I also try to develop relationship with my kids is to create a non-judgmental space.
Okay.
A non-judgmental space for them, where I make them feel that this is a safe space. I'm not judging you. I don't want to be too critical of you, and make it as comfortable as possible so that communication can be well relaxed and effective.
Good, thank you. Creating a non-judgmental space is very critical, which means your child perceives that your environment, that house, that home is not judgmental. But you see, there's something we always forget, and that's the fact that at the higher level, the child should perceive you first as being non-judgmental before the space. And it's very critical for us to be able to understand this, because sometimes people will say they are creating safe space for the child, but the child doesn't even perceive them to be non-judgmental.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Can I just come in here?
Yes, please.
I have this, I don't know, my perspective of this non-judgmental space. It has been disturbing me. I wanted to ask it. I have prepared to ask this question. My child is 2 getting to 3. And you know, boys are super active. So it's Kai, stop it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You know, come. You know, you just start shouting from morning till evening. You just start correcting from morning till evening. How can one provide that or avail that safe space at this age when the child is super active and he touches everything, he does everything, he's quick to say, he's quick to, you know, and you must just correct or shout on about something. How do you strike that balance at this age? Because I'm struggling.
Thank you very much. Does anyone want to help out before I make my own contribution on that? Does anybody want to help out?
Okay, maybe I can just go a bit further to make some addition or explain. Is that okay, sir?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. The talking about being non-judgmental, it's not void of correction. Being not judgmental is not void of correction. You will still correct a child. It's also not void of discipline. Okay, but it stems from nothing but love. They will understand that this stems from love. This stems from building them into fine adults. So it's not because sometimes we feel like when we discipline children, then we are judging them. No, we first of all explain where they have faulted, explain their errors, and discuss their errors and make them know that I stand by you regardless, but these are the areas where you did not do right, and these are the areas where you did right. So it's important that when you are pointing out their wrong, also point out their rights, because a lot of times we parents, we start by condemning everything that they have done, pushing it in their faces, make them know that you've not done right. Then we keep the right they have done in our hearts because we feel like, no, when you praise them too much, it gets into their heads. But it's absolutely important to, when you are spelling out their wrong, it's also important to spell out their rights. Make them know that these are your strong points, these are the areas you're doing it right, and then these are your weaknesses, which can be worked on, which can be improved on. You understand? So that is where I'm coming from when I say non-judgmental. It's not because you cannot, it's not void of discipline, it's not void of correction, but it is the method, the way you go about it that counts. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for that wonderful contribution. And I think I've seen also some contribution in the comments. But first thing I want to say is that first understand that you as a person, You are a human being. There are times you will lose your cool. There's nothing wrong. There are times, and that's the truth. You must first understand that you are first a human being before you became a parent. That is first established. And you don't need to feel guilty when you lose your cool sometimes. That's the first thing I want you to establish. The second thing I also want to establish is that you must also allow your child to be a human being, which means that children are very active. Are you going to say just that the degree of being active varies? You get, so you must allow them. All this playing, touching, exploring, scattering everything in the house and everything is part of their developmental process. Trust me, even you as parents, you did it growing up. So you must also establish that. So what do you need to do? Where the problem is when shouting, yelling becomes a pattern. The fact that you do it once in a while, you are just been expressing your humanity as being a human being, rather, sorry, you have been expressing yourself as being a human being. But once it becomes a pattern, there might be a critical problem that you've not resolved, which might be a trauma that you have also experienced growing up. You get, some of us have experienced childhood trauma that everything becomes a trigger to us that make us to shout and yell and do so many things. Now, that's not even the time for this particular session to deal with, I talk about childhood trauma, but you must also understand, because you need to pay attention. Some of us, we are only reacting based on trauma. That's why you're unnecessarily aggressive, you're unnecessarily shouting and doing all of that. So once you're able to understand all of these, it also helps you to change your perspective about things. Once you see that, one, this is a stage that they are going to go through as a child. The next thing, that how do I work on my own patience and how I respond to them? Like she said, it doesn't mean you should not correct. It doesn't mean you should not discipline. But the method, how you do it, is very critical, because how you do it is what is even more important. And you get what I'm trying to say, than what you do. You are trying to discipline, but your approach to it is critical. And that is where we must consciously pay attention. Now, it doesn't mean you are going to develop a perfect response all of a sudden. No, it's going to be a process, but the consciousness is critical, the consciousness of what you want to achieve. And I always say this, before I read the response on the chat board, I always say this. Where we have major problem is the fact that we focus more on our outcome than the process. We focus more on ourselves than even the child. So what do I mean? For example, a child is exploring, trying to know what this means to the child. This is a comb. He's trying to understand what this means. And in the process of understanding it, because the child is still learning, the child breaks it. Now, you are concerned about the broken comb. That is the outcome. And that is what worries you. But the child is more interested in the process, which is the learning of what this means. But because it is the comb or the outcome that is more important to you, what the child has been able to do through this behavior, that is what speeds you up. That is what gets you worried. But you don't understand that in the process of doing this, the child have learned one or two things, because in your mind, you don't understand that the child is learning through that process. So that becomes a very, difficult thing to process. Their cognitive development skills have been developed in that process, but that's not the problem. But the problem is the fact that the child was able to break it. And because you are more focused on the outcome than the effort and the process, it becomes a major issue. And this is what we do consistently over time. Our outcome is our focus is about the outcome. The same thing, the child take your clothes and put it in the laundry and pour all the detergent that you have in the house, and you get angry. The thing is that you are also focusing on the outcome, because yes, I'm looking at my money that has been wasted. I'm looking at how it has littered everywhere with a detergent and everything. But have you studied also to appreciate one aspect of the behavior? The fact that the child took the cloth to the laundry without being told, that is initiative. Do you appreciate that? That this is something that your child is cultivating? Do you appreciate that reality? Do you appreciate the reality that the child is also learning how to do laundry? That is another aspect. But because we don't look at it, we are more conscious about outcome than process, it becomes a major and a fundamental issue in the way we respond. So consistently, we respond based on outcome and not based on the process that the child took through to be able to get to this point. So let me read some comments that we have regarding your question. I think someone said that spending quality time with my children despite tight, okay, I think he's talking. It says start from an early age to balance his energy. Yes, learn not to shout. Shouting can be as a result of who you are and what you are going through, which, of course, I mentioned that earlier, and this I agree with this also. Non-judgmental, being non-judgmental is first accepting first and then encouraging them to do better. I never knew any other parenting style except shouting. Yeah, this person is saying that I never knew any parenting style except shouting because I was raised this way. But today I have raised boys and didn't shout. So you can see testimony being shared here. So which means it's a possibility, it's a reality that can be what can be achieved. Because like I said, most time we're only reacting based on who we are, based on how we have been raised, based on our trauma, which is also a reality. So let me quickly dive into the last session that I have before we round up the conference that we have today. And I want to talk on what do we need to do? How can we help to develop? Oh, someone else is up. Oh, okay. Not the person one. Okay, so let me quickly dive into how do we need to do this? What are the things that we need to do? And you see, one also major gap that I found that when people talk about parenting, child development, and all of these things, most times they're generalized behaviors, they're generalized principles. And you will tell, even from what they say, that some of these things that they just say are not based on scientific evidence. But you must understand this, and that is my core area, which has to do with child development. And the core area says that every child is not the same. Every child behavior is unique, which means that the behavior that children will exhibit at certain level will be different from the behavior they will exhibit at another level, which means that the way infants behave is different from the way toddlers behave, is different from the way preschooler, grade scholar, and teenagers will behave. The problem is sometimes we try to categorize or generalize certain approach to all of this stage of development, and that is where we really have a major challenge. And I have broken this down into different stages of development and how we can build relationship at every stage of a child's development. And this is critical because if we don't understand this, it will definitely be difficult for us to be able to build that relationship at every stage. So for those of you who have infants or you are working with infants, what is that approach or the template that you can develop for you to build relationship with infant? And when we talk about infant, we are talking of children between 0 to 18 months. Fundamentally, some people might argue that 2 years, but based on different scientific evidence, 0 to 18 years, let's use that as our standard for today. So you are raising a child or you are working with children that are below and between 0 to 18 years. How do you build relationship with them? How do you establish that foundation for emotional and for emotional development, for social development, for relationship building? The first thing you need to do that will help you is this. You will realize that children at this age give a lot of eye contact. They pay eye contact. So infant often makes eye contact as a way to connect with you. What do you do in response? Now, before I will share this, let me say this. There's a principle that was developed in Harvard Center for Child Development that has to do with what we call the principle of serve and return. That principle says that whatever you do to a child, whatever a child does is known as serve. Whatever you do in response is known as return. And they did an experiment known as the Steele experiment. That Steele experiment, and I'm sure a lot of us have experienced it, you realize that when the mother was facing the child and he was smiling with the child was smiling in return. She was smiling with the child was smiling in return. And after a while, the mother kept still while the child was smiling. And he realized that after some minutes, the child started crying. And they found out that once you don't respond positively to the child response, the child will begin to interpret the situation in a different way. Some of them will feel that they are being rejected, they are being shamed, and they will begin to express their displeasure, and they start to cry, or they feel ashamed of their behavior. And that has been proven over time. That is why we must understand that your response to every of the action, to everything that they do, or to every behavior that they exhibit as they begin to develop, that response is critical for relationship building. That you must understand those milestones, those sensitive periods, and critical times where they express certain kind of behavior is an opportunity to build relationship. Some of us miss it at that point. And you see, when they have gotten to the point where they don't really need more of your relationship because they now have peers that they have established relationship with, it's always difficult to build relationship at that stage. You will now require extra time and extra effort to be able to achieve this feat. It's not like it's not possible. I'm not saying it's not a possibility that you cannot build a relationship at that stage, but you realize that it will require extra work and extra time, because it will take time for them to trust you. It will take time for them to see you as a secure base, because the time that they were expecting you to be that secure base, you were not available. So the first thing you need to do with infant is eye contact. As they give the eye contact, please give it in return, and in a positive way. They may gaze into their caregiver's eye. That is why if you have infant, you will see that sometimes they look at you and they look at what you are doing. Maybe while you are eating, while you are dressing, whatever you are doing, they just keep staring at you. What do you do in return? They are gazing at you. They are seeking for attention. They are not just doing it because they want to do it for fun. So particularly this happens when you are feeding them. How do you give them that eye contact? Or you just feed them, let me just do this and go. Or when you hold them, do you give them that eye contact? So eye contact is very key. It's an opportunity to build relationship. Be positive in your response when they give that eye contact. Smile is also another sensitive opportunity to build relationship. Infants begin to smile in response to social interaction. And this gets maybe to around 6 or 8 weeks old. When they are between around 6 to 8 weeks old, they start to smile when you start to, interact with them socially, and you begin to engage them and all of that. You see, that is critical also. You begin to see that once they smile, you also must smile in return. And you get what I'm trying to say. So it helps to build relationship. It's help for interacting. And you get what I'm trying to say. So as you interact with them, parents can engage in playful interaction. Once you do this, what you are doing is that you are building relationship. You can make those funny faces, you can sing, you can cool, you can elicit smile from the infant. When you do all of these things, you see that their response is they give you that funny faces, they can begin to coo, they can begin to do so many things because you are responding to them positively. Once they coo and blab, what do you do in response? This is also an opportunity. Like I said, I don't have that time to go deep into all of this, but I'll just run through and give us opportunity to make contribution, and we'll round up for what we have today. As the child during infancy, you see them begin to reach for objects, reach for toys. They begin to grab things. This is also an opportunity to build relationship. As they grab those things, as they reach for objects, as they do so many of these, build relationship, grab the things with them, play with them. This is an opportunity to play. It's an opportunity to interact. As they cry, what do you do in response? For some, cry is a problem, but for infants, that is the only way they communicate. Your child cannot talk at an infancy stage. The only way an infant will communicate is to cry. When they are sick, they will cry. When they are hungry, they will cry. When they need a change of diaper, they will cry. This is a response to their fundamental needs, telling you that there's a basic need that needs to be met. Why do you get angry and see that as a major problem? I'm not talking of excessive cry that becomes a problem that we know as colic. That is not the kind of one I'm talking about. I'm talking about cry that is normal at the infancy stage, and they will do that. You will see the body language and their gesture. They will give you so many body languages, give you so many gestures that require your attention, that require positive response, that require you to be able to get to them and relate with them. Please, let's understand that this is an opportunity to build what relationship. That body language is important. Infants use that to communicate. They communicate through body language. They may raise their arms to be able to pick up something. They turn their head away from you or give a sign of discomfort through their facial expression. Parents need to pay attention. Caregivers, educators need to pay attention to these cues, respecting the boundaries, and see how you can be able to help them. Also, social smiling and laughing can also be another opportunity for you to develop relationships. As children begin to get socially aware of themselves or socially aware of their environment, because as infancy stage, when they are born, most of the time at that early stage, they are not aware of themselves, they are not aware of their environment. But as they begin to get socially aware, they may start to smile and laugh in response to your interaction, in response to some things you do. You remember, as newborn, they don't laugh to your responses, they don't smile to your responses. But as they begin to grow, still within the infancy stage, they begin to get socially aware of the environment, they begin to get socially aware of themselves and socially aware of you. They now begin to smile and begin to respond or laugh to your response, to your interaction, and to the things that you do. At that point, you are gradually beginning to get to the point where you are start connecting and relate with them in a way that they will understand. And that is critical for relationship building. So these are some of the things you can do at the infancy stage to build relationship with them. We'll take note. These are some of the things, but the list is not exhaustive, but it's critical for us to be able to understand this aspect. Another part is that the child will move from the infancy stage and it will move to the next stage, which refers to as the toddlerhood stage. And this is critical also. Toddlerhood stage, what are the things that you need to do to build relationship? They also give eye contact and facial expression. So some of the behavior that is being exhibited at one stage can be moved to the next stage. So they give eye contact, they give facial expression. So your response is critical also at this stage, because toddlers often make eye contact and use facial expression to do what? To communicate their emotions and their needs. So once they are angry, once they need something, they will use eye contact, they will use facial expression to communicate their need. Use that to build relationship, because they are telling you something and they need response from what they are telling you. So how do you respond? What we are simply saying is that let your response be positive. Being positive doesn't mean whatever they ask you give them. That's not what we are talking about. Being positive simply means even if you are not giving them what they ask, how you respond to their need is critical. How do you make them feel? That is what we are talking about. Even when they are not getting what they want, how do you make them feel is critical in how they evaluate themselves, in how they judge themselves, and in how they see themselves growing up into their developmental stage. So another thing you will see is that they start vocalizing. The way they talk at that stage is more different from the way they talk in infancy stage. So they start vocalizing their need. They start saying things. So toddlers begin to develop language skills through what? Vocalization and babbling. So they start developing language skills. This is the stage they now start talking, even if it's 2 words, 3 words, 4 words. At that stage, they now begin to engage in back and forth vocal exchanges, with caregivers, imitating sound. Apart from imitating sound, they also imitate rhythms. Responding to their vocabulary and vocalization and being attentive to them is critical for building relationships. It's critical. They will also give you smile. They will also smile and they will also laugh. So when they smile, when they laugh, how do you respond? Do you smile? Do you laugh with them? Some people are so serious that even the children have seen them to be so serious that they don't play, they don't smile, they are just there, always serious, because they feel that they are the God in this house, they are the king of this house, and because of that, and you are wondering why there is no relationship. You see, most time, what we operate on is the least level of developing relationship, and we call it the dependency theory. The dependency theory says that once you meet the physical need of children, you develop relationship with the children. But they realize that over the years, that has been a major problem. That is why in some countries they have banned orphanages, because they realize that even if they are meeting the physical need of orphans, but they have not met the emotional needs of orphans, because most likely it's always difficult for people who are not really connected with the child biologically to build that emotion. I'm not saying other people cannot build it, but because when you get to orphanage, most people are just concerned about meeting their physical need. They are not really concerned about that emotional connection. And that becomes a major issue in the development of the children. Even when they grow up, they now find that they are having a major developmental problem because they were almost sensitive, they were only sensitive in their physical need. And that became a major problem in some climes that they banned orphanages. In fact, like in Australia, it was a major problem. But you see, one of the things we must realize, these are also the things that parents respond to, especially fathers. Father will tell you, what is it I've not done for you? I pay your school fees, I give you food, I give you money, but yet you are not close to me. The truth is this: when it comes to building relationship, the dependency theory, which has to do with meeting their physical need, is the least level, is the lowest level of developing relationships. The moment you take that as the major, it becomes a major problem. You must understand that being available, connecting to their need, building that bond and that social connection with them is more critical than the dependency theory. Now, I just have to bring this in because it might help someone who think that meeting the physical need is just the major way to build what relationship. So you must also understand that in the toddler stage, they begin to explore. That is where they are curious and they begin to explore. You know why they explore. Let me tell you why children explore. Oh no, we don't have much time. But let me just quickly say this. Why children explore is the fact that, remember, from the infancy stage, the child finds it difficult to, they are still always in the arms of the parents, the arms of their mother or the father, carrying around. But they will get to the stage where they realize that they cannot begin to use their hand very well, move their hand to touch things, to move around. They cannot begin to realize they can use their leg to move around the environment. And they now begin to see things in the house that amuse them. And they want to play with all of those things because they want to learn what those things mean. Remember, their mind is still, let me put it, not totally blank, because children, there's an argument that their mind is not tabula rasa because they are born with certain skills. Now, that's not the discussion for now, but maybe in some other engagement, we'll talk about that. But what I'm really saying is the fact that they now begin to realize that to some extent, they've not gotten enough experiences from the environment. So they want to get it. They are curious to feed their mind with knowledge, to feed their mind with information, to see how this thing reacts. So your child will look at the phone. They will see, oh, what is this thing? Why is this thing bringing out light? For you as an adult, it's not something that amuses you because you are used to seeing it often. But for the child, it's a new experience. They see your TV, they see your table, they see your chair, see your clothes. Everything for you is something you are used to, but for children, it's something they are beginning to learn and get excited. Now they can now move towards the TV with their leg. They can move towards the chair with their leg. So they explore everything and scatter everything. And in trying to understand what it means, because they have also not developed that intellectual capacity to understand how to manage this thing, they will scatter it, destroy it, and do everything in the way that they understand. That is children for you. That is why they explore. So exploration, curiosity goes hand in hand. That is why they call children little scientists, because they are always curious, always wanting to find the answer to certain things. Why is this fan rolling this way? Why is it not stopping? Why is this chair, this car, why is it moving? They are always curious. It's amusing them. It's giving them reason to ask questions, finding answer. And the more they do that, the more, they learn in the process. So exploration helps them to learn. Curiosity helps them to learn. For you, it might be a problem because they are not doing it the way you want them to do it, but it's an opportunity to build relationship. They are expressing this behavior because they are calling for your relationship. They are telling you, I'm showing you this behavior now because I want you to build a relationship with me. So for infant or for toddler, you see this, that exploration and curiosity is an opportunity to build relationship. Emotional expression, imitation and play. They will imitate your behavior. They will imitate the things you do. Sometimes they see you wear gele. Gele is what cause, tie on our head in African, especially in Nigeria. So they will see you explore that and you want to do that. They want to do that in return. It's an opportunity to engage. It's an opportunity to play. They will imitate you. They will express nonverbal cue, separation and attachment behavior. They begin to develop separation anxiety. When you leave the house, they cry a lot. And the reason why they cry, let me tell you again, when the child have not developed what we call object permanence. Object permanence means that when something is not in sight, they feel that thing still exists. It means that the child has developed object permanence. Once you leave the house, the child in his mind still knows that you are coming back. But before that child gets to that point of developing object permanence, there's a point that we get to where they have not developed object permanence, that they feel that whenever you are no longer in sight, you are no longer existing, you have disappeared. And that point, you see them cry because they feel that the primary caregiver is not available anymore. But once the child starts developing urgent permanent, separation anxiety is no longer a problem. But you see, you must manage that situation so that the child can help, you can help the child build relationship in that process. We also move to the pre-scholar stage. The pre-scholar stage, this is where they are not getting too much involved in play. So playfulness, imagine things. They begin to do a lot of imaginative activity. It's an opportunity to build relationship. Play with them. Get involved in imaginative activities. Get involved in that. It helps to build that relationship. Seeking attention and affection also helps to build relationship. In independence and autonomy, they're not feeling, they cannot go, now they are no longer playing within the household, they're not playing within the neighborhood. You understand? They're now beginning to develop some sense of independence. It's an opportunity to build relationship. They start interacting with other people. Now they are no longer playing with you. They're also playing with their with the peers within the neighborhood. Opportunity to build what relationship with them. Interact with them. Learn to know what they are discussing with other peers. All of these things help in building that relationship. Sorry, I'm rushing because I have to round up in a short minute from now. Grace Scholar, this is mostly children around the age of 7 to 11 years old. You will see things like they are now freely open or communicating with you, freely expressing their experience. It's an opportunity to build relationship. You see them also, they are playful, sense of humor is beginning to set in. They can now begin to joke with you and laugh together. It's an opportunity to build relationship. You see, what you do in all of this critical period or this sensitive period or what we call milestones are critical for you to build relationship. But most time we miss this major opportunity. In fact, we undo it in a way that make them difficult to build that relationship with us because our responses are not positive. Our responses are not nurturing. Our responses are scaring. They are awful. They are things that put fear in them. So it becomes difficult. So most of them grow up being afraid of you instead of building relationship with you. So that's why there's a topic we shared some time ago talking about fear-driven parenting or relationship-based parenting. It's critical for us to understand this. Seeking attention, they start seeking attention, looking for approval for you to validate whatever they are doing. It's an opportunity. They're also seeking for guidance and support. They might come to you, they are confused about certain things. They're expressing their curiosity, asking questions. All of these opportunities to build relationship. And you will see, and the last but not the least is the stage where so many caregivers, have a lot of issues in terms of constant conflict with the child. And that is the stage of adolescent development. The desire for independence setting. That desire for independence because they are transiting from childhood to adulthood. They now see themselves as being the big boys and the big girl adults. You see, command and control doesn't work anymore at this stage. What they need critically now is, relationship. So that desire for independence, once you see that desire in them, use it to build relationships so that you can help them manage the desire effectively. They can start having communication challenges because now they communicate more with their peers and not even you as a parent. But one thing that happens is that if that relationship has built, and you see, all of these things is not something that are isolated. It has to start from infancy because the earlier it starts, the more effective it becomes. But if you're starting skill setting gap and you want to start later, or maybe you are starting at grade scholar age when you are supposed to have started at fancy age, it now need extra effort. So all of these things is like you are topping it up from infancy. If it was there, as you do it in toddlerhood, you are topping it up to pre-scholar, grade scholar, and when you get to teenage years, they might not have it difficult to communicate with you because the relationship already been established, but they might not know how to express themselves. It's an opportunity to build relationship. They are testing boundaries. They will dare things. They will test limits. They will do things, they will take risk. That's why I see teenagers take a lot of risk. Intend to take those risks. It's part of the behavior you see in them, but it gives you an opportunity to build relationship. Emotional roller coaster. They are developing. Physiologically, they are developing. Emotionally, physically, there are a lot of changes going on in their body around themselves. Is an opportunity because they are going through those challenges where their emotion today, they want to do this tomorrow, they have changed their mind. They are just so confused about everything. Peer pressure, peer influence. Also at this age, it's an opportunity to build relationship. Desire for privacy is an opportunity. Testing their independence, expressing of interest and passion is an opportunity to build relationship. So all of these are critical moment that we cannot just miss. What I'm simply saying is that instead of this development, it gives us an opportunity to be able to build relationship with this teenager. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't have enough time to dig deep into each of these and tell us what we need to do to be able to get to this point. But it's important for us to know that every child is unique, and every child is unique, and the behavior that might apply for one child might also, and their behavior may vary. It's important to observe and understand each child's preferences, their strength, and their needs, so that we can tailor our interaction and build a relationship that suits their specific personality and developmental stage. But you see, the good news is this: I already structured a program that is going to help anyone that is interested. I'm going to take 6 months to do this. On everything we've shared, we're going to dissect it one after the other. We'll be meeting weekly to be able to do that for anyone that is interested. And if you want to learn how you can cultivate the skill at every stage, depending on the stage in which you are in, in terms of building relationship and development of children. So want to cultivate the skills of building relationship with your children, 6-month program, every Sunday, 7 p.m. is going to start on the 5th of June. That's next week, Sunday. We're going to do it on Zoom. We're also going to do it via WhatsApp. So we're going to be giving you a template that you will follow, and we have that time to have a one-on-one interaction, whatever challenges you are experiencing. So we are going through the process at every stage you are. If you are currently working with infant, working with toddler, working with teenager, working with grade scholar or pre-scholar, whatever stage you are in, we'll follow the template, we'll walk with you through that template. All of those behaviors, will be developed, and we'll show you what you need to do. So if you have, you're interested, there's this platform I always do meet with them every Sunday for free. But you see, I wanted to do this free before, but I realized that it seems anything you do for free, people don't take it serious. So I decided to put something that at least is not that much that you can pay for within 6 months. If you want to spread it. It's just 10,000. So if you want to join, we're going to have a closed group where we'll be able to do that, take you through that process, and we'll also be getting feedback and follow up. There's what we call monitoring and evaluation. We must be able to evaluate what you are doing to see if your action is making impact. So it's not just something you just come and teach and we'll allow you to just go. No, we'll follow you up and ensure that everything is going on as we put it or structure it in a template. So if you're interested, please just send a message or call this number that you can see on the screen, and we're going to take it off from there. She will let you know what you need to do, and we're going to start once we have the group by 5th of June. And once we are able, we don't care even if it's 2 people that we have, we're going to see how we can work with those 2 people for the next 6 months between June and December. We're going to work with them, and we'll also talk more about what we've discussed in details and in depth, using the template to be able to follow through and see what we can do. People will share their experiences, people will share their challenges, and we can take it up from there. Thank you very much for your time and for giving us this opportunity. So within the next few minutes that we have, I'll give room for comment, for question, for clarity, for contribution, and all. Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity. Please, if you're interested in the special session, like someone said, just send a message. There's a number on the screen. Just send a message to her, then we'll take it up from there. Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, I have a question, please. How do you help a child who comes from a broken home? Because that is speaking in terms of childhood trauma. Because we all know that most children who come from broken homes, they tend to have some disorders, or they have low self-esteem and other, they are not really themselves. So if you come across such a child, how do you help them?
Okay.
So that's my question.
Thank you very much for that. Well, let me say that, yes, there are children that came from a broken home and they are well balanced, and there are some from broken home, they're having issues, just like people who are not from broken home yet they're having issues. So specifically responding to your question, in terms of how do you help a child from a broken home? I think the first thing we need to be able to even establish what is wrong with the child, because this is a question that is so generic that I can't tell you specific things to do, because we need to be able to address the problem. We need to know what the problem is. And this will require some level of assessment, diagnosis to know what is wrong with the child, then we can provide solution. But generally, if the child is having any problem, fundamental thing I think you should do first is to create what we just talked about, that safe space, that environment of love, empathy, compassion, care, because that is one thing that was missing. If it's from a broken home, most likely maybe he didn't receive enough love, or he saw enough pain that have affected the way he perceive life or see life. So you want to show him or her that care, that love, and all of that. And the next thing is important for you to take the child to see a professional to help to diagnose what the problem is, or the particular problem that the child is facing, so that we can know how to create that environment. If it's self-esteem problem, of course, you now need to begin to help the child to be able to detach the events that the child has experienced from himself as a person, and whatever the child has been said to, or whatever they have said to the child, we need to now begin to help them to reprogram their mindset so that they can be able to see life in a different perspective. But I might find it so difficult to be able to give you a particular answer because we don't know the exact challenge that the child is going through. But most important, like I said, just a generic response. That child needs love, that child needs care, empathy, compassion. That child also needs to see a professional if the child is having a major challenge, so that they can able to get the child through that process, diagnose what it is, assess the child, and provide good intervention that will help the child. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, I just want to ask again, sir. Sorry for coming in, delaying your rounding up. Are there children that are naturally stubborn, or it's just that they were not handled properly?
What do
I've
you
had
mean by
parents that I've had children
Sorry,
that are from a
let's
godly
define,
home.
Julius, let's define what you mean by being stubborn so that we have clarity.
The stubbornness is, you understand now. They don't hear what
Julius.
they have. They are from a sound, so-called family. They received care like every other child in the family, but they are single-handedly difficult. Out of 6, you see one that is that is just singled out to be difficult, to want to go his way, to want to do things his own way, and not like the regular. You know, say, this one did not come from this family. So I don't know. Is it the environment? Is it the upbringing? Was there something wrong? How can it be corrected? I've met parents that came to me saying, "Okay, please come and start dealing with this. My son, let him be as good as you are." I say, "How can I do this?" And it's increasing by the day with the moral decadence and the rest. So I don't know. What is your advice, sir?
You see, Julius, I'm having a problem to respond to that question. And the reason why I'm having a problem to respond to that question is because most time we tend to want to conform children to be like every other person. So if you are being specific to say, okay, maybe it's a strong-willed child, or maybe it's a child that has so many social vices, and you mentioned those social vices. Now, those are being specific. I'll be able to now think on how I can respond. What if you say, oh, the child is just different among the 6 children that the parent has? Of course, he has to be different. The child doesn't have to be the same with other children. So I need that clarity to help me to respond to that, because sometimes if everybody is like you, the world will be boring. That differences is what makes the world spicy. But I need to know what the differences is so that it helps me to be able to respond properly. I don't know if you get my point.
Yes, sir.
So individuals need to be themselves. That's what I'm trying to say. You get, but if it's now something, or maybe it's a strong-willed child, you get, of course, there's a way you can manage strong-willed children, because being a strong-willed child is some positive advantage too. But the negative part is what we can now begin to work on, to let the person see that life is not just all about him or her. You get that they must be able to treat other people right. They must see things from other people's perspective. If it has to do with social vices, maybe it's cultivating certain values that, are not the right values, then it has to now bring back to where did the child learn all of this from? How were that particular child raised? Then probably we'll now need to now see how we can take that child through that process. Maybe there need to be a therapy session that need to be handled, so that, because you see all of these things, I can't give a definite answer, to be honest, until we sit down with that child to know what the real problem is.
It's all right, sir. I am now looking out for ways to positively maximize that struggle, sir.
Okay.
And I'll be glad if you can support me. It's just a few.
No problem. Let's see some. We have some comments. Hello, I have not been a parent before, and this session has really been shaping my perception of what raising a child takes, and I will do it right. Thank you. Exactly, some children from broken home are very sound. Even some children living with both parents have low self-esteem because of how they were raised by both parents who may be fighting most of the time. Yes, that's true. Okay. Do we still have any other response, comments, addition? Please feel free to contribute. We still have a few minutes. It's supposed to round up by 2. So feel free to share your knowledge.
May I add something here, sir?
Please go ahead.
I just want to also encourage parents and, of course, everyone that is a caregiver, could be a parent or a caregiver, everyone here, that for me, this is just my personal perspective. I might not have statistics to back my claim, but it's just a personal perspective that in raising a child, it's not usually always one size fits all. It's not always one size fits all. If we use the one size fits all pattern, we'll get it wrong. Regardless of the fact that, and the reason why this is coming, this advice, call it whatever you may, I just don't want to use it loosely, but the reason why it's coming is it stems from the fact, from the last question the person asked, that how do you handle a child that is extremely stubborn and different from everybody? There's never a one size fits all in raising a child. What works for child A may not work for child B. But when we look for how to attend to each child personally, there is something that is personal to them. They have that's the reason why every human have their peculiarity. So there is no two person that is alike in temperament, in everything put together. The way they respond to shock, the way they respond to joy, the way they respond to sadness, they're all different. So there is absolutely no way we can raise every child in a home. Yes, they could be born to, absolutely. If you look at yourself as well and look at your siblings, you will really see that there's actually difference in character trait, in lifestyle and everything. There could be some common denominators amongst all of you because you were raised by same parents. However, there will be differences, in the way you see life, the way you attend to life, the way you respond to things. So I just want to encourage caregivers here and parents that do not look for how to use one size fits all. Oh, this was how I raised your brother, I'm going to raise you that same way. Every child have their peculiarity and how the way they everybody has what love means to them. So love can mean a smile to one child, but love can just mean a warm embrace to the other child. So it's let's just know basically that is never one size fits all. And let's also find time, create time to bond, create time to know our children, create time to know what help, what makes them better people, how to support them, how to help them. Because sometimes the reason why some children kick back or fight back is because we are not giving them the right method of love. You are not attending to you are not giving the right approach to what they need. So that's the reason why they close up to you. They don't let you gain access or look for the solution. So let's truly dig deep to know what the solution to this problem is. And of course, one of the ways to do it is to build relationship from the foundation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that contribution. Thank you. Okay. 5 minutes more to round up if there's none. Thank you, sir, for this session. So many take homes and things to online and start doing it better. I'd like to add that understanding the child love language will help build relationship. I agree with you perfectly. understanding their love language will help to build relationship. Thank you very much for that. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, please reminded of what we shared with you earlier on. If you're interested in joining the closed group where we share more details on building effective relationship with parent, caregivers, whatever stage you are, please join this group. We'll be taking it for a period of 6 months. And please just send a message to the number you can see. We're going to take you through that process and to help us to be able to add value to your life. And you also will add value to our own life. Thank you very much once again for your time and for coming in. Do have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. See you next when we're having our program. Bye.